In a shocking turn of events, Victor Manuel Rocha, a former American diplomat and Cuban spy, found himself embroiled in a tale of intrigue and espionage that spanned decades. Born in Bogotá, Colombia, and raised in the Morningside Heights housing projects of Harlem, New York City, Rocha's journey took him from the soccer fields of the Taft School to the hallowed halls of Yale University, where he excelled academically. Graduating with honours in 1973, Rocha furthered his education with a master's degree in public administration from Harvard University and a Master of Science in Foreign Service from Georgetown University, becoming a naturalized citizen of the United States in 1978. His career in diplomacy began in 1981 with postings in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, and Tegucigalpa, Honduras, before he found himself entangled in the political landscape of Mexico City and the nuanced affairs of Havana, Cuba. Rocha's ascent continued, with roles in Santo Domingo and Buenos Aires, Argentina, before reaching the pinnacle of his diplomatic career as the US ambassador to Bolivia, appointed by President Bill Clinton. However, beneath the facade of diplomatic decorum lurked a clandestine persona, a Cuban agent operating under the guise of an American diplomat. Rocha's alliance to Cuba spanned over 4 decades, with admissions of gathering intelligence since 1981, despite the US government's classification of the Cuban government as a sponsor of international terrorism. His arrest in December 2023 sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles, revealing a web of deception and subterfuge. In a dramatic twist, Rocha pleaded guilty to conspiring to act as an agent of a foreign government in April 2024, facing a staggering 15-year prison sentence and a hefty fine. The revelation of Rocha's double life serves as a cautionary tale of the complexities and betrayals that often lurk beneath the veneer of diplomacy. As the dust settles on this sensational case, the true extent of Rocha's actions and their implications for international relations remain shrouded in mystery, leaving a lingering sense of unease and distrust in their wake. Rise to prominence. Born on the 23rd of October 1950 in Bogotá, Colombia, Rocha grew up in the Morningside Heights housing projects in Harlem, New York City. He graduated from the Taft School in 1969, where he was captain of the football team, then going on to graduate from Yale University with honours in 1973. He received a master's degree in public administration from Harvard University in 1976 and a Master of Science in Foreign Service from Georgetown University in 1978. He became a naturalized citizen of the United States in 1978. In November 1981, Rocha began working for the US Department of State and was posted as a political officer in the Embassy of the United States in the Dominican Republic from December 1982 through to January 1985. He would return to the Dominican Republic in November of 1991, this time serving as Deputy Chief of the US Embassy until July 1994. In between these postings, he worked as a political military affairs officer in the US Embassy in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, a role he took for 2 years, starting in February 1987. He also served as First Secretary of the US Embassy in Mexico City from February 1989 through to November 1991. After these successful postings, he had begun to build a strong reputation as a valuable diplomatic officer for the US in Latin America. This led to him working as a Director of Inter-American Affairs on the US National Security Council from July 1994 to July 1995, where he began influencing diplomacy with the Cuban government. Between 1995 and July 1997, Rocha operated as the Deputy Principal Officer of the US Interest Section of the Embassy of Switzerland in Havana, Cuba, which at that point was the de facto US Embassy in Havana, until the 2015 Cuban thaw that normalized diplomatic relations between the US and Cuba. After his stint in Cuba, he was stationed in Buenos Aires as Deputy Chief of the US Embassy for Argentina, as well as serving briefly in Italy. Ambassador to Bolivia. By this point, Rocha had established himself as a very competent and valuable asset to the US government, and this was duly recognised by none other than President Bill Clinton. Having served on the White House's National Security Council from 1994 to 1995 in Clinton's administration, it made sense that the president appointed Rocha as US ambassador to Bolivia on the 14th of June 2000, and he was sworn in on the 14th of July. He presented his credentials to the president of Bolivia on the 4th of August 2000 and served as ambassador until the 7th of August 2002. It was also during this time that he and his wife had 2 children. As US ambassador, he had a significant amount of political sway. This was shown with his off-the-cuff remark weeks before the 2002 Bolivian general election, threatening to cut American aid to Bolivia over Evo Morales' support for the coca growers movement, which has been credited with boosting Morales' movement for Socialism Party in the 2002 Bolivian general election. After that, Morales called Rocha his best campaign manager. After his time in Bolivia, Rocha worked as an advisor to the commander of the US military's Southern Command from about 2006 to 2012, at which point he retired from government service and started a career as the president of a Dominican gold mine owned partly by Canada's Barrick Gold. More than a Grand Slam. For years, no one suspected a thing, and it looked as if Rocha had gotten away scot-free. However, in December 2023, Rocha was arrested in his Miami home on allegations that he had engaged in clandestine activity for Cuba since at least 1981, when he started his career as a US diplomat. He was accused of meeting Cuban intelligence operatives and falsifying information to US government officials about his contacts. An undercover FBI agent posed as a representative of Cuba's General Directorate of Intelligence and repeatedly met Rocha in 2022 and 2023. To this agent, Rocha admitted his decades of work for Cuba, according to a court document. The agent called himself Miguel, and Rocha's admission was recorded. Rocha spoke in praise of late Cuban leader Fidel Castro, called the United States the enemy, and bragged about his service for more than 40 years as a Cuban mole in the heart of the US foreign policy circles, prosecutors said in court records. "What we have done, it's enormous, more than a Grand Slam," he was quoted as saying. Rocha allegedly described travelling in 2017 to meet his handlers in Havana, by first flying to the Dominican Republic under his US passport, then using his Dominican Republic passport to travel to Panama City, where he boarded his final flight to Cuba. On other occasions, Rocha flew directly to Cuba using his US passport. According to the criminal complaint, Rocha said that he was instructed by Cuba to lead a normal life and created a fictitious persona of a right-wing person. The lawsuit accuses Rocha of sharing intelligence that emboldened Cuba's communist leaders to assassinate a chief opponent. However, what Rocha precisely did to assist Cuba has largely not been revealed by federal authorities yet. The FBI and State Department investigators have been assessing the damage, which could take years. The mole exposed. Rocha initially pleaded not guilty in February 2024. However, in April, while shackled at the hands and ankles in front of US District Court Judge Beth Bloom, said, "I am in agreement," when asked if he wished to change his plea to guilty. In exchange, the prosecutors agreed to drop 13 counts, including wire fraud and making false statements. Rocha's fall from grace could culminate in a long prison sentence, after he said he would admit to federal counts of conspiring to act as an agent of a foreign government. In typical counterintelligence cases, defendants are charged with espionage. However, Rocha was accused of less crimes of being a foreign agent, which carry maximum terms of between 5 and 10 years in prison. The plea deal includes an agreed-upon sentence, case prosecutors and Rocha's lawyers indicated. In terms of the impact Rocha had on the world of espionage and the damage done, it will take some time to determine the extent of the leaks. Peter Lapp, who oversaw FBI counterintelligence against Cuba between 1998 and 2005, said the fast resolution of the case benefits not only the elderly Rocha, but also the government, which stands to learn a lot about Cuba's penetration of US foreign policy circles. The US and Cuba have had strained relations for more than 60 years, since Castro and his team of armed revolutionaries overthrew a US-backed dictatorship. As of the writing of this script, Manuel Rocha has been subsequently sentenced to 15 years in prison and ordered to pay a $500,000 fine, a sentence that will likely mean he will spend the remainder of his life behind bars. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please give it a like, and for more amazing tales and thrilling stories, don't forget to subscribe to Uncovered Secrets. Also, hit the bell icon to stay notified for every release.